Okay, thank you all for being here. Woohoo! It's my birthday week. Celebrating my birthday. My body, as they seem to keep track of these things, will be turning 64 actually on Tuesday. And I always remember the Beatles song when I'm 64. It was an interesting song because they were really creating the idea that 64 was actually quite old. But it's a sweet song, and we all remember it, and it's a happy song. So I'm going to embrace it, even though I don't feel old. But it's interesting just to see how the culture has changed, and actually that song just really shows our progression as a society, and that 64 doesn't seem that old like it did to the Beatles back whenever they did that song, which was probably like 68, 69. Do you have any idea, Reverend Rudy?
67.
67. So in 1967, 64 was all about retiring to the Isle of Wight. So anyway, I really thank you all for being here. I thank all the speakers who are going to come up here and roast me or say nice things about me or whatever it is they're going to say about me. Kind of interesting just to stand up here and know that people are going to come up and talk about you. So we're going to do them in alphabetical order, and we'll get right to it. So the first person to speak is Reverend Roxy Benson. And we have amplification here today too, so this microphone is live and can pick you up even if you move a foot or two away.
Well, there's no accidents in salvation, and I wasn't selected to speak originally. I won't take offense to that. I might, a tiny bit. But someone bowed out, and I happened to be sleeping at Tony's house because he shared his guest room with me. So he asked, and I said, but of course, I would love to. And, I thought, well, what a great opportunity to roast him. But, and there'll be some of that, but really, I might probably gonna need Kleenex because he's a dear, dear friend of mine and my mighty companion in this work, and I have so much love and respect for you. Brave would be the first word I'd use just to describe the way you've walked your path in A Course in Miracles, and you stood by this work in some of your darkest times, and it brought you out of that. And your commitment, you and Larry, to this place, and your firm commitment to this place when that was almost shaken, and you just persevered and held your purpose, and your purpose has never wavered. And you've always welcomed other ideas. You didn't always welcome mashed potatoes, but you've always welcomed other ideas. And so here's a little roast story for Tony. We celebrate Thanksgiving together as a family here at Community Miracle Center, and it is my family Thanksgiving dinner, and I relish being there. And for many years we had it at the mansion at Reverend Larry's house, and Tony's a no-carb guy and has been for many years. But Thanksgiving, you're supposed to have all the carbs in the history of the universe that day, which is a message I tried to convey. But I asked, where are the mashed potatoes? He said, oh, well, you don't have two kinds of potatoes. You got sweet potatoes, but you couldn't have mashed. And so, I thought of all the ways I could get mashed potatoes to Thanksgiving dinner. I was even going to bring my own stash, share them with people. But finally I used manipulation, spiritual manipulation. And I said to Tony, I'll know you're spiritually evolved when you allow us to have mashed potatoes at Thanksgiving dinner. Then I'll know, you've really grown spiritually. And we had them the next time. We've had them ever since. So this brother of mine has always been an inspiration to teach Be who you are, and don't be afraid to be out about that. And the cool thing about Reverend Tony is there'll never be a sex scandal about him because he already is open. So there are sex scandals about him, but they don't come out. He puts them out himself. They aren't, rumors that are found out later, or these scandals later. And so, my favorite one, we were in the middle of a controversy in Course in Miracles community over a silly idea called versions of the Course. It's still a silly idea that one version will bring you home and the other one won't. Any version will bring you home because it's the same content. And our dear steward of ACIM, Ken Wapnick, taught us that lesson in the end, that form didn't matter. Only the content of love and forgiveness matters. And one thing you've always done, Tony, is held the content. You've held the content of ACIM always. No matter what form was out there, you were open to all of it and held the content. And in this time where I believe we are in a new time now, the time of Christ, the time of miracles, and there's a new addition to Course in Miracles. We have a Way of Mastery and we have a Course in Love, and I believe they're better together. And so the idea I bring is that they're a trilogy, that they're Jeshua's Miracles trilogy. And ACIM has allowed me to bring those two disciplines here. And because, although the form was different, it's the same content. Mm-hmm. And the content, the form of the Way of Mastery and the form of A Course in Love has brought me deeper into the content of A Course in Miracles. I understand it better. I know it better because of those. And that's because Tony allowed it. So Tony, my dear brother, when you came to San Francisco as your sister and came in drag and were just open and fun and brought humor and light to this bitter battle that our community was in, and you did it in a shocking but fun, light way. And you've always reminded us about the line in A Course in Miracles that, we're in this mess because we remembered not to laugh at the tiny mad idea of separation. You've bravely taught joining. You've bravely taught unity in relationship, even before we had the language from A Course in Love that's where we're going now. And your focus has always been on relationship and your relationship with who you are, allowing yourself to be who you are, having relationships, open relationships, being openly poly, openly bisexual. I am also openly poly and openly bisexual. Thank you for giving me the bravery to say that, to be open. You opened me with your bravery, and you've always brought innocence to sexual expression. That is a deep, profound spiritual truth that our world is very afraid to teach. Thank you for being a brother brave enough to teach that. I stand by you in that message. Sexual expression is innocent. And I'm happy to join you in that teaching. And so our next fun, we went to Vegas, and you took off your clothes and I came out in very little. And we had a blast there with that. There's been a huge reaction to that. A lot of fear, a lot of judgment. And I just want to keep reminding us, and what happened to me in Vegas is I went through something in my relationship and I was judging behavior. I was judging the behavior of myself, two people I care about deeply, and I was making the dream real. And the reading today, being the hero in the dream, being someone who looks good and does good in the world is still a very prized idea of the ego. And our community separates by thinking that there's such thing as spiritual behavior or spiritual action. There's only spiritual content. What you do in the dream, it's a dream, and we need to remind ourselves we're dreaming. I forget I'm dreaming. I was in my bathtub crying, yelling at the two people that I decided had victimized me, and I was yelling at God, and I was calling them names, and I was removed from that situation as the Christ and saw myself doing that. And I awarded myself Best Actress. I gave myself an Oscar. I said that was well played. And then I decided that if I wanted my behavior in that scenario where my ego saw betrayal, where I saw self-righteousness, where I saw that I just wanted to be right. I wanted to be the hero of the dream. I wanted to be the one that had the good behavior and not the bad behavior. And I watched myself do that as a Course in Miracles student, knowing exactly that that was the most insane thing in the world. And I didn't want to do it anymore. And I wanted to be innocent, and I want everyone else to be innocent. Because if they're guilty of their behavior, I'm guilty too. So I just remind myself I'm dreaming. And that's what Tony does. He doesn't dismiss or dishonor his human experience, but he reminds himself of the truth every day. And thank you so much for being a brother that does that for me. You are a mighty companion to us all. Yeah, God.
Thank you, Reverend Roxy. You forgot to mention that when I actually did make mashed potatoes, they were the most awesome mashed potatoes.
Yes.
I didn't just give you mashed potatoes, I gave you mashed potatoes. Okay, thank you very much. Okay, so our next speaker up here, who will again say absolutely wonderful things about me, I'm sure, is Reverend Rudy Colombini.
Good morning, everybody. Morning. Yeah, this is what somebody looks like who was drunk and stoned the night before. I'm a rock star. I mean, I have to do my work. Right? So I guess the saga of Rudy and Tony. As a matter of fact, this is it's a bit of a love affair. We're going on 30 years, and we probably met, let's say, about 28 years ago. I remember making a phone call here. Tony was rude on the phone. I didn't know how this New York guy could actually be telling me that something wasn't going to happen that I wanted to happen. And he did in a Tony-esque way. But I did come. And there would be no center without Tony. There would be no Sunday service. There would be no ministerial program. There would be no reverends. There would be no central Course in Miracles Grand Central Station for Northern California. This again, Tony has been doing for 30 years. He's outlasted the Beatles. 10 years he outlasted John Fitzgerald Kennedy. He only was in office for 2 3/4 years. Muhammad Ali just passed away Friday. Tony's still here. I thank Tony for most of all the doingness of the dream in the dream, being in the world as the world was given to the Son of God. Because the world was given to the Son of God to have fun, to toil, to groove, to be sexy, and all those wonderful things. I thank Tony for our relationship. I would even go as far as to say that He is to me like a family member. And we got a long way to go. I mean, we've just started. We've hit our stride. And my goal is to help us to take this place into a more secular, worldly, let's just call it even a religion. We have a lot to display, a lot to teach, a lot of what we have learned here, we have become ministers to the world. And what I get from Tony, I put out in my business life and my musical life. And thank you, Tony. Happy birthday. I love you so. And that lyric at the end of the song, would you lock the door? Oh, nobody locks the door for you. No, never does. Thank you. Happy birthday.
Okay, Reverend Rudy, thank you so much. So our next speaker coming up here now is Al Gilbert.
Good morning, everybody. Good morning, everybody. Happy birthday, Tony, Reverend Tony.
Thank you.
Contrary to expectation, I'm not here to sing your praises. Not that I don't have any. I have lots of praise and love and respect for what you do and what you stand for, and what you build. It's just that there are so many other praises that are going to be said that I certainly concur with in advance. So, what I did sort of feel compelled to talk about, or just creative to talk about, was just about birthdays in general. One thing that came to mind is that, as the Beatles sang about 64 being an old age, when I was back in my 20s, I realize now that I am 64, that I and all of my friends are a much younger 64 than our parents were at the same age. And I think that has to do a lot with our society and the way we grew up. I think it also has to do with the fact that our parents either chose to or had to, many of them were post-World War II young adults, they took on a lot more responsibility very early in their lives in the post-war period, and I think it was a harder time for them. They raised children, they had jobs, and they didn't have a lot of the choices that we did growing up. The other thing about birthdays is, as I get older, the joy of celebrating birthdays kind of waxes and wanes. So, for instance, when I turned 60, a friend of mine said, turning 60 is a lot of fun because people make a big fuss. But it's when you turn 61, no one bothers anymore. Then it gets depressing. The other thing that occurred to me about birthdays of one particular year is that I think a birthday is a recognition more of our mothers than of myself. It was our mothers who gave us birth. That was a lot of work. I just showed up. So one year, I just sent my mother a birthday card on my birthday, and I said, thank you for bringing me into this world. I think it took her quite by surprise. She didn't know quite what to say. But I think that's an important memory to have, that birthdays are as much about people who brought us into this world as us being here. Birthdays, annual birthdays are also a roadmap, or sort of a time roadmap to the ultimate day, which we call Death Day. It's just inevitable, but we celebrate the years that we have together. And I think that I recently had a school teacher of mine who became close friends, and I've learned that I celebrate his birthday now as much in his passing as I do when he was living. And I think that's important too, to celebrate the birthdays of people who are no longer with us. And every day is a birthday. Every day we get to get up, get out of bed, and the Holy Spirit gives us one more day for whatever reason. And I think that's something to celebrate too. So, Reverend Tony, I wish you a happy birthday. I wish all of us a happy birthday on this day, on Sunday. And Reverend Tony, yes, I will still need you and I will still feed you. When you're 64. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Gilbert. Okay, so our next speaker is one of our ministers here, and somebody who we hear from time to time, and it's great that she is here with her husband. And let's give a nice round of applause for Reverend Marilyn Grant.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Reverend Tony, for giving us this opportunity to honor you and show our respects for everything that has been so creative, beyond my fondest dreams of what you have been able to accomplish, and you're not done yet. I just want to hold this book up because I take it out from time to time, and of course, most of you know Reverend Tony wrote this book. And it's just wonderful to go back over some of these markers that I put in there. I'm really, really very grateful for this book. And I wrote some notes, and because I had some really interesting thoughts in the last few days, and I didn't think I'd be able to hold on to them, so I may read a little bit of this. So I'm starting out with, today is about Reverend Tony, our Reverend Tony from New York City. Well, from New York. I added the city part. And I want to share some of my experiences and memories with you. And of course, it's a wonderful honor to be a part of this gathering today. So on June 17th, 1986, our Reverend Tony was legally ordained a minister in A Course in Miracles. Probably you already know that, but I needed to hear it again. The next year he started presiding at a small A Course in Miracles Sunday service held in a tiny office space in San Francisco, Haight-Ashbury district. Reverend David bought one of Reverend Tony's first publications, which is this. Let there be light. A Course in Miracles tells us enlightenment is but a recognition and not a change at all. You stand with me in light. We all stand together in light. I am responsible for how my brother sees himself, herself. I'm comfortable with the Course using the male word for each of us because that feels more comfortable for me. I am responsible for how my brother sees himself. Another holy instant opportunity to see things differently, more loving, more brotherly. A Course in Miracles talks volumes about our true status with each other, our brothers, and we're genderless according to the Course. It's just not an issue that I've seen brought up. Gentleness, encouragement, clarity for a state of mind that is perfectly confident. This is our Reverend Tony. This is how I see him, and I'm sure there's many who do. This is my true experience. Thoughts that are truly helpful are just a small gift that I received from our Reverend Tony. I have a beautiful memory of one of the first times I was here, maybe 16 years ago. It was when Reverend Larry was around, and we brought our grandson who was not walking yet, and his name happens to be Vincent. So we brought him, and I sat back there with Vincent, just entertaining him while things were going on here. And before that was all completed, Reverend Larry asked me to bring Vincent up, and he actually stood here and held him up like with a blessing. And I remember that. I have photos of it. I don't know if you guys were here and remember any of that, but that meant a lot to me because we have several grandchildren. A few years back, Reverend Tony invited me to be a greeter at the A Course in Miracles convention in San Francisco. Oh gosh, I was so scared when I thought about that, and Reverend David gave me a lot of moral support and said, all you have to do is just show up. You'll be led. There's nothing you have to worry about. This is what Reverend Tony was called to do, and now it's what you're called to do. So I did show up, and gosh, it was so marvelous to be able to walk around there and be introducing myself to people from all over the world. And that was my first experience with one of the A Course in Miracles conventions. And I felt truly blessed. And I could write volumes about that experience too. Some of these folks I've seen since then, and some of them I might see on YouTube occasionally. Fond memories. That was another opportunity for me to change my mind. The first thing that came up said one thing, and then when we have a brother as a witness to what we want to do, they confirm with us who we really are. I did have mixed feelings, and I had a heart-to-heart with David, and that was really important for me to do, so I could really feel clear. And so he was driving me there, and he said he'd drive me there. So all I had to do was say yes, 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 yes on my way there, and he would do the rest. Reverend Tony, to me, walks in true gratitude and confidence for himself, for you, and for me. He's always demonstrated faith in my abilities, and I see him demonstrate all the time his faith in all of our abilities at one time or another. And it just is a continuous circle of confidence that I walk away with. And some of you already know, but the past few years, Reverend Tony's faith in my abilities to proofread various articles before they're printed and mailed out. And that is such an honor. I have so much fun with that because I've said this before, I love to find people's mistakes. And he knew that about me. And we have a lot of fun, going through some things. Sometimes Reverend Kelly and Reverend Tony are in a hurry to get something published, so they go through it really quickly, and then it comes to me, and I go through it, and it's one of the highlights of my life, I have to say, because I never know what the topic's going to be. It's really, really beautiful, and you guys together do a beautiful job. And witnessing our Reverend Tony take advantage of all the miracles of technology. Sometimes he has a lot of help with that, but sometimes I guess you must feel like you're out there all alone, but you come up with these ideas. They're generated through your thoughts, through something you've seen, and you share it all with us. And after Reverend Larry's passing, Reverend Tony went on to a lot of other experiences, and I'm so grateful for all those memories. And I'm so grateful for the memories of Reverend Tony picking up that ball and running with it. He just ran with it, and people were so excited about showing up to support him with it. And I still remember that. And his continuing education with us of what the true meaning of A Course in Miracles principles are. I mean, lots of times I'm changing my mind about what I thought certain things meant. And that's due to our Reverend Tony. He outdoes himself continually. So it is a great, 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 great honor to be invited here to recall some of these memories about the confident, insightful Reverend Tony. And I say, hip, hip, hooray! Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Reverend Marilyn. Okay, and so our next person who's coming up here with her crutches is our assistant minister. We're so happy to have her, and we work together just about every day here at Community Miracle Center. I remember when, I don't know if you remember that, when she was first got in or getting ready to star, or maybe it was during the interview, I says, I'm going to be your new best friend. Because we're going to work together all the time. So, Reverend Kelly Halleck. You need help? You got it. You got it.
I'm just gonna get the Kleenex though, because I was already crying and I haven't gotten up here yet. So, I'm good. Oh. There we go. Okay, I'm good to go. There, now I'm center. Now I'm good. Okay. It's funny how life changes and yeah, he has become one of my best friends. You know, 4 years ago, I was like, yeah, I think I must stay the course more. And so, my friend then, he referred me, he said, you should take, because I was debating between this and Pathways of Light. And he says, no, I think this one would be better for you. And so schedule-wise, I ended up with Reverend Tony for my Course in Miracles 1 class. And he was just, I always remember, it's like, I remember much of what we talked about. I remember he was always just so patient. And he was so kind. It's so funny, because it was like, I hadn't heard any of the crazy stories about him at conference or anything. And it always just struck me how calm and kind he was during class. And then I moved on with my life. And I was still, I was still in Course in Miracles 2, and I was, sorry. I was doing another job, and I ended up having to leave that job. And so I had to call, and I was like, okay, I need to switch my email with CMC so they know how to reach me, because it was all my emails were going there. And it was one of the most, I would say almost, it was probably not the most painful time of my life. And I called, I left a message on the answering machine. I just said, hey, here's my new, email. Just change it. And I really didn't expect anything back from that. And I got a voicemail back. As I'm crying, because I keep thinking that was so sweet. And Reverend Tony on the phone, he said, it sounded like you were crying. Are you okay? And it was the first time that I felt like somebody was caring about what I was going through at that moment. And so we called, and I called him back, and we talked, and he was just so kind and so loving. And it's funny, because it's like, you go to a conference, and we see him, getting almost naked on stage, and yet the Reverend Tony I know is so sweet and so kind and so compassionate. And when I came here, he reached out to me and was like, have you thought about moving to San Francisco? A few people did. And I was really not thinking I was going to, but I did. I ended up feeling like, okay, I think this is where I'm supposed to go. And my parents have said to me, they said it's one of the best things, and my friends, actually one of my friends too have said to me, they said, Reverend Tony is one of the best things that came into your life because he believed in you. And I didn't at that time. And he has been probably one of the most healing presences in my life over the last year. And I'm so blessed to know him. I'm so glad I get to see him all week, and I'm so glad he's finally taking days off. So I don't see him every day at work now. He's taking a day off. So I get to see him 4 out of 5 days I'm here. And it's just such a blessing. And I'm so glad you came into my life. And I'm so glad to be able to tell you happy birthday and to tell you how much I love you. Thank you. The only time I've ever heard him speechless was when he got here Thursday, and I literally was laying in the stairwell with a person he didn't know, standing above me, who I got to get my cell phone. So, love you. I need to get popped down. Whee.
Thank you, Reverend Kelly. You're a joy to work with. Love you being here every day with me. Okay, so our final speaker for today. Somebody near and dear to all of our hearts, and of course especially near and dear to my heart. The person who I'm going to celebrate a silver anniversary with this year, 25 years. Okay, Reverend Deuce Althea Ramasir Singh.
Well, hello everybody. What can I say? Everybody said everything, haven't they? Happy 64 birthday. Well, Tony is committed, he's devoted. He has great perseverance for A Course in Miracles. That's why it still exists. He has no problem getting down on his hands and knees to clean. I thought I'd just pause for a moment. I know how the mind works. His determination and stamina for his projects to complete them, he is amazing. I mean, he has sheets, lists like this, maybe 4 or 5 pages of things he has to do. And he really does do them. He's really fun-loving. As you can tell by our conferences, he's creative, he's imaginative. He's created this wonderful conferences that we have that bring 400 or 500 people. So we can't complain. He loves to dance, and I love the one of the songs from the Rolling Stones. The song, The Girl with the Faraway Eyes, and as we were driving to Las Vegas, he played that for me as we got close to Bakersfield. And of course, at our conference, we had the unauthorized Rolling Stone, Reverend Columbini over there. So, you know, all of this had to be carefully thought out. It just didn't happen. He really thinks about what he's going to do. And when there are conflicts with people, he really works them out because he knows there are no victims. And he's not going to be a victim of the situation. He honestly tries to clear it up. He's creative. He created the logo for the CMC. And when old board wanted to change that, he wouldn't let them. He knew this was really one of the greatest things he did. Okay, wait a minute. I lost my place by picking this up. And of course, if you look in here, you can see he's having fun. So when there are conflicts, I think I said that he really tries to change them. People have to change their mind, and he really does it through many of his sermons. And he's not the only one we speak. As you see, all of us have spoken before up here on stage. He encouraged us to speak. I've kind of lost it. And when he's confronted, you know, people write him letters complaining or saying things. He really does a great job. And it is really well thought out when he responds to people about their objections to whatever they may be saying. He really, it's just, I'm amazed at it, and I love it. I love listening to him when he really points out to people, like he's got like 10 bullets, this is what you did, and here is how I am responding. And he's not like critical, he just really responds with everything he can think of from the Course. He's great at that. Now, in the first 30 years, in the 30 years at the CMC, this is the first time that Tony is taking a day off. He has literally worked 7 days a week. I want to say 7 years, 7 days. You know, he does the newsletter, he does the e-zines. He encouraged every one of us who becomes reverends to speak. And he had a lot of struggles with Reverend Larry, but he got through it. And I think many of you who knew Reverend Larry, how difficult he could be. And here are a couple of quotes. One, the ego vacillates between suspiciousness and viciousness. It remains suspicious as long as you despair of yourself. It shifts to viciousness whenever you will not tolerate self-abasement and seek relief. then it offers you the illusion of attack as a solution. He refuses to attack. He does not do that. And as I said, at all of the last 2 conferences, he is the one who did the designs for it. And they were really magnificent. He certainly listens, learns, and do whatever needs to be done to make the Community Miracle Center the wonderful space it is. His depth of determination keeps us all going. He is magnanimous. I'm not going to repeat it. That's it. He's magnanimous. I can't say a word.
Thank you, Reverend DeSophia.